If you're interested in working behind the scenes in music, theater, or other live performances and events, you may want to look at the occupation of sound engineer. Some sound engineers work with live performances, mixing the sound produced during the show. They manage the sound that audiences hear coming through the speakers, as well as what performers hear through earphones or monitors. We spent some time with the sound engineer to hear what he had to say.
My name is Owen Hutchinson. I'm a sound engineer here at the Citadel Theatre in Edmonton. A sound engineer is somebody that works with sound, be it recorded sound or live reinforcement. In a large musical, I'm very, very involved. I'm basically a lens that the audience hears the show through. Every sound that the audience should hear in a show comes through my equipment and under my fingers. And I mix it together into a tight, exciting little package, and then I make sure that that package gets to every seat in the house. A theatrical sound engineer will generally deal more with reinforcing acoustic sounds. So we'll take an actor's voice and amplify it, or musicians in an orchestra pit and amplify it, versus taking the same performers and recording them, putting them to tape.
The sound engineer is very important to a live production. All of the sound cues they choose or build affects the audience and affects their mood, whether the audience knows it or not. And if it's a good sound design, the director's vision is enhanced by what the sound engineer has chosen to play.
The main tools and equipment we use are microphones of all types, all sorts of microphones, loudspeakers of various types, mixing consoles, effects processors, and cable. Lots and lots of cable. The main skills required are the ability to perform under pressure, the ability to hear music well, to be able to pick out individual parts of a piece of music, and to work well with the team. Learning on the job is extremely important in this profession. We often get the opportunity to work with a designer. As an engineer, my job will be to execute the designer's vision of what the show should sound like. So in fact, the designer often ends up much like a coach or a mentor, trying to teach you the skills that he wants you to have in order to execute the design. Well, there certainly are. There are degrees and diplomas and certificates. Most of the formal training leans towards studio engineering. Most people start sound engineering in music. They'll start playing music as musicians and start getting more and more into the technical side of it. There are basically two phases to my job, a rehearsal day and a performance day. During the rehearsal days, a typical day will start at 8 a.m. and then rehearsing all day long, and will typically end around 11 or 11:30 at night. And we'll do 2 weeks of those generally on a show. A typical performance day, I'll come in about 5:30 in the evening, run a show, and we'll usually be done around 11:30 or so. On a nightly basis, I'll check every piece of equipment that I use. I'll check every input device as well as playback devices. I'll go through each one individually and listen to it, make sure there's no noise, make sure it's operating properly. And then I'll check all the output devices. So I'll play music in the house and I'll wander around and listen to speakers and listen to music. Make sure everything's functioning properly, make sure everything sounds like it should. Sometimes things change and you gotta keep on top of that. I'll go through each wireless microphone we have and make sure that the microphone is maintained and in good shape, and that the battery's working and the connectors are solid. I'll go into the orchestra pit, make sure all the mics are in the proper positions, make sure all the cables are intact and in good positions. And I'll check in with all the people I work with. I'll check in with the musicians and the actors and just see how they're doing. Because if somebody has a cold, that affects my job, and I need to be able to adapt to that. The work environment is usually fantastic. I often get to work with some great artists, really creative people generally. And on a large scale show, well, there's both the creative people and there's a lot of technical people too. So there's a great mix of people, and it's sort of the camaraderie of a competitive sport, except we're all playing on the same team. Most people will start doing operating shows. The advancement comes generally in the scale of the shows operated. You'll start generally with the more simple shows and work your way up to something more complex. There are also, you can work towards a head of department position, which is generally more of an administrative position. Also, people work towards designing shows, as opposed to just executing somebody else's mix to starting to design their own. If somebody was interested in pursuing a job in sound engineering, my advice would be just to do it as much as possible. Go to theaters and volunteer at theaters. Go to a recording studio and volunteer there, just to get the experience, and then you'll start being able to do it professionally after a little while. But do it as much as you can and be passionate about it. Listen to music as much as possible. Try to analyze music. Think about it as you're listening. Build up the listening skills. I like playing music. I like making little stop time animation movies. I enjoy getting outdoors and enjoy the weather. I'm very pleased with my career choice. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. You know, if they all get up on their feet at the end of a show and really liked it, it's immensely satisfying that everything, all the hours you put in, all work, and the team you work with, everybody did their job and it all came together.
To become a sound engineer for live performances, educational requirements vary, but you will typically need 2 years of post-secondary studies. If the occupation of sound engineer interests you, there's more information available, including educational requirements and salary ranges in the occupational profiles on ALICE. You may also be interested in the related occupations of lighting technician or television audio-video operator. Learn more on the ALICE website and make the most of your future. Visit us at alice.alberta.ca.